Welcome everyone to a special AWA Agora event, here to share with you a special celebration of the journey of AWA lighting designers and look at where we are now and where we think we're going in the future. There's no one, I think it's clear, no one more knowledgeable to share where we started and the journey so far is the founder and design principal, AWA Agora, who is going to share 5 minutes or so about try to summarize what 20 years has brought us to this point. So I welcome him to the spotlight.
Thank you, Justin. Five minutes for 20 years. I love it. It's kind of encapsulating how the experiences have unfolded. But first of all, I got to tell everyone that when we decided to throw this party about a few weeks ago, when we heard about our award, the celebration, we started going down memory lane and looking at images and projects and other things from way back being like 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And it's been such an amazing journey. I look back and I look at all the things that we have been able to do. I'm very thankful to my team. I mean, Justin being with us for 14 years out of 19, Anuri for 12, Sitaraman sir for 11 years or so. And what's really amazing for me is that, in this examination that we did, and remember, I've got 5 minutes for 20 years, so I'll just move it along. There are many stories to share, but I'll move it along. That when I started in 2002, the reason I started, this is right after 9/11, I was working for a firm that was right next to World Trade Center. So I ended up staying another 6 months to make sure that, I wasn't leaving them at a bad time. And 2002 March is when I kind of started setting up shop, if you would. We had no work, zero work. Plastic tables, plastic chairs, had a beautiful space in Soho. I used to live in the back and work in the front. And it was a beautiful space. I mean, a skylight with a 2,000 square foot rooftop, and you can be sure that we had tremendous parties, and if we didn't have the rooftop, we would probably have done more projects, but we just had so many parties that maybe that kind of helped who we were, because we were in the best place for designers, I would say, in the world, New York City, right in the middle of Soho, with a creative pool of people and friends who, many of them are still friends of ours, who stayed with us in our growth in terms of innovation and research. But why did I start? I mean, I could have just continued in the comfy job that I had. Well, it was comfy in that I used to get a regular paycheck. The reason was that I really wanted to explore what it is to do this internationally and to do my research, to follow more of our philosophical leanings towards embrace the world as one family. I mean, in Sanskrit, the phrase is Vasudhaiva Kutumbam, that is, the whole world is one family. The writing was on the wall that I had to go out on my own. And then we had no work, but I was going to generate the clients ourselves. Then I got one small residential project, then a bar, then a nightclub, then a restaurant. And then we won a design competition in Hong Kong, which was a turning point for us. That was in 2003, December. I had a counterpart in Hong Kong. I packed a bag, took a flight. Obviously I don't speak Cantonese, at least at that time. I didn't know the country, and we didn't have an office space, but we won the competition. So we had to get an office space, and we had to have an office there for them to sign the contract. So I'm there finding a place and setting up a team, and it's really quite wonderful. And then after that, we started focusing also on South Asia, but we were trudging along, barely paying the bills, right? Core team of 15 people odd, but was, I mean, I still remember my credit card debts from that time, and the number of years before I took a vacation, and the first time I moved from the plastic tables and chairs to IKEA tables. you know so but anyway, so something magical happened in 2006. We finished 2006 2007, that we finished a few projects, and architectural record, which for many of you, you would know this, that they, at least back in the day, 14 years ago, even now, but that time they were the publication to get into, and they covered us in the Lighting Pioneers section. And suddenly, within a month, we were the busiest that I had been since I started in 2002. So this is 2007. Now, 2008, 2009, guess what happens? Not something that any one of us wish, but you have the stock market crash. And one of my clients overseas told me, he says, it's like this, yeah, at least for the rest of the world, that there's that whole thing about, seeing a tiger in the village and everybody locks their doors and nobody wants to come out, but there is no tiger. So it's just going to be a little bit of time before they open up the door and come out. And that went on for us for 2 years. In that much time, we moved from Soho to Brooklyn, spent few years there. But I mean, after the recovery, we were very busy. We also started, this is 2010 or so, asking the real important question, which I should have asked in 2002. But the thing was that in 2002, I had a 10-year plan. We got to it in 2009. And now the point was, okay, how many millions of square feet do I have to build before I find real meaning behind what we do, right? So that was a question that started almost, there were some life-changing events in 2009. And I would say that in the studio to Justin and then Anuri and Sitaraman sir, it's like, listen, I don't want to wake up 20 years later and say, what did I do? We built all these millions of square feet of offices. So what? So how do we make a difference? How do we use the skills to change the zeitgeist? Yeah. And listen, we were complete. I mean, my team knows this, that we are complete mavericks, iconoclasts, in that we don't like to belong to any society, reluctantly go for all these events. And there are deeper, bigger reasons, but I'll keep that for another conversation another time. But we just kept focused on doing our work, right? And expanding. We have finished projects in 24 countries. So we are probably one of the only firms in the world that has built projects in so many, lighting design firm that has built projects in so many countries and actually gotten them built. So it's not just like I'll send you the drawing and you guys figure it out. No, we get it built, right? So we kept going from strength to strength. And about 2015-16, we started what's called the AWA 2.0, which is a revision to everything that we were doing. We were trying to figure out where in life we wanted to be. And it was a magical time. We started a gallery for socially relevant art, mostly for underrepresented parts of society, because it was a way of us giving back to artists. Because when I came in, I got my breaks from some really wonderful people, God bless them. And all of us in the team were motivated to have that in 2016. And we started with socially relevant topics and many talks. And right now, of course, is mothballed because of COVID. But we hope to revive it soon once things get back to semi-normal. And then, the projects came in. We were getting to really figure out who we were. And once we knew that our purpose was to bring joy and prosperity, everything just fell into place. We knew why we were doing this. We were doing this to spread happiness, to spread joy, and also to be wise on the business part of it, right? And I'm going to request Anuri and Justin to talk about it a little more when they get to it later, in terms of what processes did we follow as we learned, as we went along. And then anyways, I think I'm getting close to my 5-minute time limit here. So I'll just fast forward to pre-COVID. January of 2020, we are on top of the world. We have finally come to steady cash flow. We are expanding our team. We have such giant plans for 2020, and with my team, many of them are here in the audience, and of course, then COVID comes, and instead of doubling in what we had to do, we went to half of what we were. So, but we took that all with like an opportunity to pivot, and that's when the AWA group was formed, because we had all of these verticals in the company. The mothership is AWA Lighting Designers. That's where it all started, right? Then we have the book that came out last year during COVID, a work that we had been on it for about 4 or 5 years, and my team will tell you more about it. And then we had the gallery. Then we had AWA Agora, a talk show that we started to stay in touch with our friends, because the big reason for us being in New York is to have that kind of dynamic exchange between artists, healers, architects, friends, so that we can keep growing professionally and personally. So we did that as a pivot. But the other big pivot that we did was we took a vertical of healthy lighting, the Healthy Lighting Studio, and turned it into Soul Studio, which is a new initiative with a great team that's running it. It's a quote unquote startup, but it's a fantastic thing that we're doing for mental health using light, sound, projection art, and multimedia modalities for architectural spaces. So the idea is that you install this in architectural spaces. So, and then the reason we're here today is that we got this email from a group in the UK, which I thought was a, what's it called, a telemarketer kind of email. So I just kind of ignored it. And then they wrote back in 3 days saying, I don't know if you read this, but you have been awarded the most innovative creative design firm in New York. And I'm like, so, and it's at the height of, us kind of going, damn, when is this COVID getting over? All of us are fatigued, and it's just like, oh God, man. I mean, and you're feeling for everybody who suffered and people who have lost family members and friends. All of us have been impacted by it. And then this thing comes, and we're like, okay, listen, we got to take a minute or two or a couple of weeks just to soak this in, because we're always in a hurry to kind of like get to the next project or whatever. But we're just going to take a moment and go back 20 years and see how we got to where we got to. And I am very blessed that I have a wonderful team. Two of them are on the screen here. I'm going to introduce Mr. Sitaraman. He's now our director emeritus, but he joined us in 2009 and 2010 beginning. And then we have Justin Mensch, who's our associate director here in New York, and Anuri Shah. She's what we call the Jhansi Ki Rani. I don't know if those of you who understand Hindi would know what that means, but I'll translate for those of you who doesn't. That she was a freedom fighter who was, what was she, like 18 or 19, but she was a tigress. She was a tigress, and the favorite pose is the horse is kind of rearing, and she's got a sword in her hand, and she's fighting, and so we call her Jhansi Ki Rani because for working in South Asia and getting projects built, she's been spearheading that for many years. And she'll also, of course, share her anecdotes and experiences. So that wasn't 5 minutes, and I'm sorry for that. But we'll get Mr. Sitaraman.
I think it's acceptable.
You're fired already. How are you, Mr. Sitaraman? It's great that you could join us.
I'm fine, thank you.
It's wonderful to see you. It's been a few months, and
yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, it's quite a bit of time since we talking personally on the one-to-one level. Anyway, that's it. I would like to waste my time.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I joined AWA during January 2010. I come from an electrical engineering background with a lot of experience in hardware design and manufacturing. I was trained as an optical reflector for trained as a deflector designer used in the lighting fixtures. And I was a Government of India specialized photometrist. I was in the Government of India panel for photometric measurements when the body was being formed. But it was both laboratory measurements and as well as field measurements. So when I got the opportunity to join AWA, I thought it would be a good amalgamation of my experience with a lot of architectural design experience, which the organization already had, especially with Mr. Abhay Wadhwa as the head. So I thought it would be a very good gel very well, and I would be very happy. And 11 years later, I tell you, I am indeed very happy. So I think I took the right decision at the time to join the AWA. That's how this thing started. I would like to share two of my experiences, which I during initial days, which I had shared with Mr. Abhay Wadhwa. Which is in early days, I was attending a what they call project presentation meeting with the client and the architect. And Mr. Abhay Wadhwa was speaking, he was explaining the project to them, how he was going to design the project and how he is going to, and what would the project look like. Being an electrical engineer, I have no use to lux, lumen, and all that. But when at the end of the meeting, after 45 minutes, I realized that he spoke for 45 minutes, but without using a word called lumen, lux, uniformity, especially when describing a lighting project to a client and architect. That floored me, I said, what I learned in the 30 years, is nothing. What is to learn is far, far, far more than what I know of lighting. That was a really revelation for me. I learned a lot. And also one more experience is in my past jobs, whatever I did, whichever part of the country I was, there was always deadlines, and I used to do some short circuiting somewhere to reach the goal and meet the deadline. But I was in for a big shock when I was working in AWA, that my boss was absolutely a perfectionist. He would not take anything less. It was very exaggerating at times, but I realized that if you want to operate on an international level, these are the minimum standards that you have to meet. That is absolutely eye opener for me. So, and working with Mr. Abhay was a wonderful experience, and you learn whenever he speaks. I'm the most intent listener, because I learn a lot. He's got the way in all aspects of the business. So that helped me a lot in my life. And so it goes on and on. I don't want to go further. And they said, I received a lot of respect working for AWA, both inside the organization and from people who are outside, with the clients and architects, who are spread all over India. I was very happy, I was not getting it in the previous work experience. Abhay always used to tell me, Sitaraman, don't bother. You're being backed up by an organization which is like 800-pound gorilla. So be confident and, just bang. Don't tell a lie. Where is possible, let's work confidently. We have all the support, and you can go and meet and commit anything, which is possible with your experience. Commit experience, and we will realize that. So that helped me a lot in my day-to-day working. That's why I learned a lot in 11 years, and I'm still learning. And being associated, and with all the latest improvements that's happening in the lighting field, I'm keeping myself alive, agile, and I'm willing to wear my laces once again and start it all over again. Yes. But I'm enjoying my time staying in Chennai. Thank you so much, Abhay. I really, really am. Thank you for all the things you did for me. Thank you.
Mr. Sitaraman,
I think that's it.
You were thank you so much. You were such a pleasure to work with. We did many journeys together also on the more philosophical, spiritual side. And but more importantly, he's a man of super integrity, and which is what I was looking for, is somebody who can actually lead the team from the side of truth. And because it's not, I mean, internationally, it's not easy to get things done. Let's put it this way, right? And Mr. Sitaraman was a rock for the whole organization, because you could go to him for technical questions, and he's very humble. He's not telling you a lot of things that he did, or going into certain meetings with a very aggressive and antagonistic kind of client, because they had some political reasons, and him single-handedly handling all of them, people who were half his age, and and he's a young man. I don't know why he's saying about this thing. He's a very young man. So thank you, Mr. Sitaraman. It's such a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. So over to you guys, and we'll talk about research and other things after. Or you want to do the little retrospective of the images?
Yeah, I think we can touch a little bit on what you talked about, give a few imagery and a few project anecdotes, and then sort of talk about where we're at.
So let's start with sharing some images. I know that. So this is a quick map of where all we have done completed projects, and we've had great big adventures over the last 19 years, with a base in Miami for a couple of years. We were doing some great projects there. Hong Kong, of course, then Dubai. We won. Justin's going to talk about the bridge project, his first project that we had won the design competition on. And then, of course, New York is the oldest, but then Mumbai and New Delhi are two strong studios for us. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, this is, remember I was telling you that we were doing a retrospective. So this is 2007 Christmas at our loft in Soho. And the next one.
Who's that?
When you showed this to me, I couldn't stop laughing. That's Justin and I, December 22nd, 2007. Next, yeah, that's just us playing in our labs. And this is we used to have ping pong tournaments on Thursdays, right? And my favorite story about Justin is that he's very good at ping pong. And we had an intern from Korea who's still good friends with us like 10, 12 years later, who was very good too. And before he was leaving, leaving back for Korea, we had this tournament, and it went down to the 5th game. And I'm like, Justin, let him win, man. He's leaving. He's like, well, if he wins, he wins. But I'm doing my best, but he didn't win. So
the best part was that we played the one game and he won, and I got him to play again. So he lost before he left. So
yeah, that was a whole afternoon playing ping pong.
Yeah. And I remember we had the clients come in at one time from they were in town from India, and we were playing ping pong with them, and it was a great space and good times with everyone.
He's the only guy who beat you, though. That guy who came I forget his name, but yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, he was like amazing.
He was amazing. He was the only guy who beat Justin.
I mean, it wasn't like a professional table or a full-size table, and it was just like a jugaad kind of thing, which is very much up our alley. So prior team, another Christmas sort of event where we were in our neighborhood in Williamsburg, out and about at the night, trying to be cool at night.
I think this was a year-end Christmas dinner.
It was like it was close to New Year's time, and going to the Bushwick Inlet Park grand opening, the groundbreaking with the mayor and the city council members. That was a public parks department project.
That's, I think, one of our biggest celebrations that we had, and it was one of the best. We had the Delhi and the Mumbai studio together for our 15th anniversary, and it was a major hit, and we enjoyed. I think all of us really danced and enjoyed with all the clients that came in and all the friends that we have from the architecture teams. Yeah, that was one great night where all of us were together, working remotely. We didn't see each other that often, or maybe not even once or twice a year, but that night was a major hit when all of us were there. And
we had a similar event in New York, which is sort of one of the catalysts for one of our team members in the audience, Rick, who we met through that party and planning, and was a fantastic event here in New York with all of our old colleagues and clients and friends. That was a great time as well. Can't
Yeah.
believe it's been, we're
Yeah.
approaching 5 years ago already, getting to the 20 year. And then I think the next is that we had some music and events with friends that we've met through the gallery and through different events that we've had in the past. And we often have music or live music at whenever we try to have a party or an event, and we bring people in from, you know, different backgrounds to play different types of music, you know, drums, guitars, Mimbara, right? I think that's how you say it, you know, African music. Actually, looking at those photos for the 2007 party, I'm pretty sure Nora played at that party sitting on the couch
Yeah.
with her music. There was like a
Yeah.
part photo of her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was her.
Yeah, yeah. And then we had Will Calhoun play at the 15th anniversary, who's a dear friend of ours, a Grammy winner. But I think that's the magic of, you know, who we are and who we have become and where we are. And is that because we are all embracing, our friend circle is so diverse. I mean, when we have parties, or I mean, when we had parties before COVID, I mean, you would have, I counted once, probably 25 different nationalities in one night in one space from all continents, well, not Antarctica, but the rest of it. And we feel very blessed because we keep getting these amazing influences that make our game better, you know. So moving on, just to stay on schedule.
Yep. I think we're just, you know, sharing some of the different press and awards that we've received over the years. You know, 2009, Abe was awarded a 40 under 40 through building design and construction. And, you know, we've been speakers at the PLDC conferences, at Light and Build, or at the Light Fair and AIA conferences, and the recent award of the most innovative creative lighting design firm. Just different things that, you know, we strive for in what we do to make sure that there's importance in what we do, and we are always excited when it's recognized for that importance. So just a few of those. And as Abe mentioned in the, some anecdotes about projects, the very first thing I worked on working at AWA well, I guess I should say working as a full-time member of AWA, since 4 years prior to that, I was a student and an intern for Abe. So I've actually known him for 18, going on 19 years now. That I worked on the Sheikh Rashid bin Said crossing bridge, which is on the next slide. And that project, you know, was a competition, as Abe had mentioned. I think an important, looking back as well, an important aspect of AWA, I think, is competitions and the importance of design over just trying to make a buck. And, you know, a lot of our big projects over the years have been through a competition, and working with architects and understanding that, you know, they're trying to get these projects just as hard as we are. And they know that we put in the work with them, and we win projects often, I think, which is a good feeling. That this project was, you know, an understanding of building the world's largest single span arch bridge in Dubai. And the architect was building $1 billion project. And, you know, we were working day and night, you know, 3 or 4 days straight over the weekend to get the competition done. And, you know, I'm working on this day one, moment one, and it was very sort of informative of the process and how hard everyone was working to get this done. And it really sort of ingrained this idea of, you know, getting the most important things done, and understanding that the project has meaning behind it. And the concept is the phases of the moon and the importance of the moon and the Quran and the culture. And it became one of the awarding aspects of the project. And, you know, obviously it got shelved because of the crash, but it was actually won and awarded and started and everything. So, you know, I think it was a very important project with FX Collaborative. that we worked on that and some other projects in collaboration at that time when I started with the company.
And when you came in, I believe it was like mid-November.
Yeah.
And I think you went like 3 weeks or so with no Saturdays. I think there was a break for Thanksgiving, but then we went 3 weeks, no Saturdays, no Sundays, just working straight all the
Yeah,
way.
we had a couple of competitions going on
Yeah.
that ended by the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are, it was great beginning, the loft space and, the 5-floor walk up and all of that, getting your workout in. So yeah, it's but it's, it's the importance of the connection, and even the very first project, give you this idea of concept, and making that concept reality, I think, is what we try to do in our storytelling of projects. And I think the next slide is looking at just a quick arc of return is this another competition, one with the architect building a memorial to the transatlantic slave trade, which is, it's a monolithic sort of hand-carved stone project that's built in the United Nations Plaza. That was the ribbon on the right is the ribbon cutting of the monument in March of 2015 with Ban Ki-moon, who at the time was the head of the UN General Assembly, and the things that had to go through with the project on site and coordinating with the aspects of this is an existing plaza, historical place, security, access, all of the power and all of the things had to go under the monument, so it all had to be run down into one place, getting into the sub basement, doing all these things. It was a really interesting project that was sort of very well received and looked at in a way that was sort of this monument that is a permanent monument in the United Nations Plaza that is seen by everyone that goes to the General Assembly building here in New York when events and things happen. So it's one of the forefront projects, even though it's small in stature. It's, I think, a large impact in what we have done over the years, and something that's very visible in New York City here.
And you know what's interesting about this project is that the architect, who's a good friend now, through him, we got the idea for the first, well, because of the people I met through him through this project, to work on the exhibitions at uh, Gallery AWA. The first one was Art of the Bate, which was looking at the modern day slavery in sugarcane plantations in the Caribbean. And it's just amazing how synergies have happened with doing thoughtful projects. It sometimes goes into an exhibition, sometimes it's a paper, sometimes it's a new product, because we're constantly questioning.
Yeah.
And I mean, this, of course, our goal was that when you go through it, you are really connecting with the emotions. That's not a science museum. This was a tremendous, terrible tragedy. And how do the future generations and the current generations learn from it? So the lighting in working with the architect was all about that.
Honoring the experience. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Thanks.
I think, and then the last one I'll share on the lighter side is, I can't believe it, but that photo on the left, we climbed the ladder to get to the top of the outer bridge crossing here in New York, New Jersey, which was, crazy. I don't like heights, but we did it, and we went up there and did the photos. But that's actually 4 years ago this week, that photo. I thought it was like yesterday, but maybe that's just remembering the fear of it. Yeah. But it was 4 years ago that we did that. Yeah, like April 5th, I think.
On top of the
17.
Yeah, on top of the Bayonne, right? Or was it Gothels? I forget.
Outer Bridge Crossing.
Outer Bridge
Oh, no, you're right. It was was it the other one?
It wasn't Bayonne. It was Gothels or Outer Bridge, one of the two.
It was Outer Bridge, yeah.
OBX, yeah. And yeah, it was really amazing. I love going up on heights and
yeah, you were right. You were ready. You were good. You were happy about it.
Yeah.
I smiled for the photo. I was yelling inside.
Yes.
And then our Holland Tunnel experience has been a long journey. That could be a show on its own. But you know, this was actually like August of COVID here in New York City. We did a 2 a.m. site visit to run testing on the test
Mhm.
portion of the installation of the overall process. They were changing the 8,000 running feet of tunnel from fluorescent lighting to LED lighting, and part of the testing was, you know, making sure the light levels were correct and all of the interference is subdued. And we were out there during COVID, you know, with the masks in the middle of the night with everything shut down to allow the testing to happen, which is a unique experience for anyone that might have ever gone through these tunnels. It's thousands of people an hour that go through these things, and to be there when it's nobody, nothing going on, it was quite an experience.
Well, very quickly on this. So this is so through COVID. Here's what happened after the first month or two, because nobody knew when we were getting back to work, right? And the first month or two, everyone's shell shocked. We don't know what's going on. April, May. I get COVID in April of last year. April, May, we have no idea what's going on, right? And about June or so, we say, okay, enough of like moping around and figuring out what's going to happen. Let's just keep ourselves busy with doing things that have been on the back burner. So we took, as I was saying earlier, our healthy lighting studio and all the other research, you know, that's been going on for over a decade, and uh, put that into an entity called Soul Studio, which stay tuned because you're going to hear more from them. Then we took our product design part because we had a lot of, not a lot, that's an exaggeration, about 4 patents that we have, which are full patents on products, and we had another 4 or 5 that are in the pipeline now, 5 maybe in the next month. Uh, and so we said, you know what, we're going to have an entity that's going to take care of product design, launching the products, and it's all as a the byline for Dragonfly Collective is movement for humane inventions. For Soul Studio, it's service to humanity. So we had these 2 things, and then Justin and I put our thoughts together on starting a talk show called AWA Agora, which has, it's very gratifying that people really appreciate us putting in the time to do this. It's also, you know, for furthering the dialogue. Yeah, you know, so the byline for that is facilitating thought leadership. And then, of course, we had our book that was many years in the making, because we didn't want to make a coffee table book. Yeah, we wanted to make something that could impact our zeitgeist. I keep saying that because it's super critical for us. And that is a project that um, several of us in the company worked on, but specifically Justin and Anuri, who kind of, you know, got it through. And of course, it came out, it reached the United States in June or July. It was published, as most things are, in Hong Kong. It reached us in June or July of 2020. So, you know, it wasn't a good time to go meet people and distribute and do talk shows because nobody, I mean, you know, we all know what happened. So, yeah, so that's the AWA group. And what we are really proud of is that we took this time where all work had stopped. Yeah, I mean, we had some projects that needed some follow-ups, etc., but there was no new work coming in because nobody knew what the hell was going on. And what do? You know, we just don't sit around and say, well, we just wait for this to pass. What we did was we said, let's take the time and let's start this new initiatives, and was really thrilled on how it's been busy, but it's been really great. So, you know, over to you, I guess, Anuri. I'm loving to hear your stories too. Yeah. Hey, look at that.
So this is one of our first biggest malls that we have completed. It's a mall in Bhubaneswar, India, where it was a multi-use kind of space, which had 3 stories of a mall and shopping arcade with a big, huge atrium. and then had offices at the back. So the experiences were for a day-to-day person, a visitor coming in, or someone who's just coming to shop or see the space. There was always this misconception from the beginning, at least out here in South Asia, that the uplights in a public realm would create shadows, and that would not look aesthetically appealing for someone who walked into this space and went into the entrance from this big ramp that you see. So this was the architectural structure, which was called the ramp, and we uplighted it with the columns around the entrance area. The shadows that were formed and the attraction that was created towards the space was just shocking, because there was a footfall of thousands and thousands on the day that this mall opened, being that it's a small city and it was such a big structure with such architectural appearances that were new for a city of this kind. And it just made it, this entire wrap created a selfie point for customers and visitors. The shadows that were casted with the lights, it made it like a moving screen, so people were just looking at this entire space with awe, and wondering that how is this happening, and it kind of gave it an identity of its own. And I think we did come across a few people telling us that on the way that, how is this going to work? How are we going to have glare free uplights? And we said it's going to work. The wrap is going to look beautiful. It had this metallic feel, which we were sure that when we uplit it, it wouldn't lose that texture. And yeah, this is how it looks great today. So yes, this was a really, really interesting project to work on, and we worked on it for 2 to 3 years. And
Longer, I think, yeah, when from the design start. But the best was that when Sitaraman and I, we were at Jagannath Puri, and from there we stopped in Bhubaneswar, and it had just opened, and you would not believe even the bollards that you got implemented there, the ones that little wallets with like little kids sitting on it, posing on it. And then because they were not just a light fixture, it was something that was like, part of your artistic landscape. The heights were chosen so it wasn't kid unfriendly, because there are a lot of kids who come to malls with with their parents. And the best part was that there was a traffic jam, of people taking selfies on these uplights. Some of them will kind of stand on it and get the light going this way, and then they'll do this and take a little video so that they see the hands going up. And the guys in that you see in the background, that's the security with the light blue and the dark blue trousers, the light blue shirt. Those are the guys that are taking the whistle and kind of moving people along, almost like it's a big Indian festival. It was amazing to see how you could how you could implement that in modern day context and make it uplifting for people. And I mean, Anuri, I mean, this is a remote part of the country. This is not Mumbai or, so for her, kudos to you for getting it built. And,
it was a public attraction. I mean, it was so heartwarming to see people enjoy the space, not for the mall and not to go in and shop, but just to see these in-ground lights taking you to the main entrance. I mean, it was a different experience, and
Yeah.
I think it was worthwhile in a city like this, because the appreciation and just the person's face when they were seeing the wrap and how it was lit and how it transformed from
Yeah.
day to night, which was one of the biggest questions the architect had, that how are we going to light this wrap, and
Yeah.
we worked with him a lot, and I think his confidence and the fact that we pulled it off, we
Mm.
did a lot of meetings on this, that it just turned out to be great. It looks awesome. Yes. And if you see, the image doesn't have the logo also lit, because they had the confidence that they didn't need that to be lit. It
Yeah.
had its own explanatory feature that brought them all to where it is.
Oh,
I think we have one more project to.
oh yeah. And I think just very quickly, because of how this conversation is going, we want to talk about where we're going. And I think what we could do is our current research projects, we can do this as a part two, probably in a month or 6 weeks in our Agora, this thing, and stick with this project, which is definitely Anuri's, what for so far, and I'm sure there are many more that are going to come, but it's definitely a crowning achievement. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be more crowns that you wear down the road, but this is a beautiful project. Go ahead, yeah. Tell us about it.
So it was a heritage building in Mumbai. If you are in that space, you'll see that none of the other heritage buildings are lit at all. They're just non-lit buildings which don't transform and become anything at night. And being that the client that we had was subleasing it to Zara, one of the biggest brands in the world, they wanted it to be an attraction and they were sure to have us on board. But yes, there were a couple of things that they were also sure that they wanted value for money fixtures. Working with them, with different vendors, the situation where, you know, we were doing multiple mock-ups, but we just stuck to our specifications and we did not budge. We had multiple rounds of going on site and just looking at the building because the heritage had to be brought out. It had to be picked up in a certain manner. And we couldn't lose that while we were working. So yes, that was something that was an achievement. We worked on different lenses. We worked with different kinds of offsets from the building.
Right.
There were things that we had to adjust till the last minute because we had fixtures that were not exactly what we wanted, but then we got it to become that. And like Justin used the word jugaad, we did a little bit of that, and then it turned out to be what it looks like. But it's also something that is a major attraction in that space. And till date, when I walk by it, it's an experience that I would never forget, for sure.
Mm. So I just want to add a few things on this. One is that given the landmark feature that this project had, right, with in the middle of the old city of Mumbai called Fort, that there was a definite thought about the historic nature of it and how we wanted to sculpt each and every detail in a composition that was wholesome, you know. And what ended up happening is that the design was perfect. Now, what Anuri is, because she's also very humble, she's jumping over, is that we had tremendous pushback in getting the fixtures that we wanted, because that's how it is, right? You know, everybody wants the best deal for their lights, and but we knew that we had to get this kind of distribution, so we were sticking to the performance specifications, sticking to the that this has to perform this way. Yes, of course, it's LEDs, but it has to perform this way. It can't be any different, because down the road, what would happen is that you would get a blotchy facade. You know, one is going yellow, one is going pink, one is doing something, the other one's doing another thing. So how do you keep it in? It had 4 modes. This is the brightest mode at dusk, but then there is, you know, it scales down, and there's one for the festivals or the special occasions. How do you get all of it to work in a historic building where you can't drill through? You know, you have to keep the wires kind of, wire management has to happen. And remember, this is a city called Mumbai, which is known for its monsoon rains. When it rains, it really rains, no kidding, you know, and it rains for days. And what that does to lights is one thing. Now, there's always this question about, well, you know, what about light pollution? What about energies? Well, yeah, energy efficiency for sure. Light pollution, the street lights next to it give more pollution than we do, right? So the question is, should the historic character, the cornices, etc., be compromised and not be uplit, right? While everything around us is super light polluted, right? So what we did was a conscientious way, saying that because they didn't have any requirement for lead, but that we would do it in a way that the light is captured mostly by the cornices. Yeah, of course, some of it escapes, but it's not just a floodlight that goes out in the thing. We are just going ting, 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 ting to every detail and confining the light to that geometry, you know. So I just wanted to add that this wasn't an easy project, and you know, it's really a beautiful one. Um, And I mean, one of the interesting things for us was talking about environmental issues, that because this was a retail giant and the developer, the owner, wanted to keep them happy, he trimmed out the trees. You see the trees on the right? So when we talk about environmental issues, you see that the trees on the right have been trimmed out. We couldn't cut it because that'd be against the law, but he just trimmed everything out so you could see the facade, you know. And it's right in the middle of the old city, and it's really a landmark. Do a few minutes of conversation on where we are going in the next 10 years, in our third decade of having a great time doing what we do. You know, but we wanted to thank you all for your support over the years and your friendship and your, you know, for your patronage, you know, to our clients, to our well-wishers, to our team at AWA, you know, who, I mean, for the old timers, I mean, they have seen me in different forms, kind of hopefully evolve for a better person. But it's been, you know, I'm very, I mean, I don't want to say too much, except that uh, I'm very particular about making sure that we meet all the systems and standards. And I want to thank the whole team, you know, everybody, all the new leaders, the old leaders, and the people who are providing all the support for sticking to the agenda, sticking to the reason, you know, sticking to the reason for why we do this. You know, we don't do this for we don't do this for just showing up at work at 9 o'clock and going back at 5 or 6. We think we can really make a difference with our combined skill sets. So that culminated in this award, which we were really happy to receive, and we are really thankful to all of you, right? And I do want to engage Anuri and Justin in the next 10 years of our future as we go into a third decade.
I mean, I think the discussion has always, like many things that we do, we talk about a little bit, and then something grows and expands all the way. I think in our next decade, we certainly will expand into a new culture and region in terms of South America is always something that we've talked about in terms of the richness of the architecture and the experiences down there and the limited current market that's there. And I think, you know, our experience with expanding in all these other 24 countries, we're able to move into new areas and sort of create the designs that we want and, you know, make the connections in the architects and the design world, whether it's through our gallery or through our writings or through the talk show, all of these different things that we've done over the years that sort of given us these experiences and avenues that we can, you know, bring to life. And I think in over the next 10 years, you know, besides the obvious of, you know, building the New York studio and continuing to grow and coming out of COVID with all of these exciting new opportunities and avenues to meet people in different ways and, you know, expand the team in different ways. You know, the work environment is changing with all of these people in these major companies working more remotely. You know, it's not the old fashioned, you know, you got to be in this brick and mortar store and this brick and mortar location. I think it's an exciting opportunity to expand the way we work together, which we've done through the many years, you know, from the adaptation of WhatsApp and Skype and WebEx and now Zoom, you know, being able to communicate with team members and get things done over the course of a, you know, I always say that we're a 24-hour studio, you know, we all work together. New York may start something, one of the India teams may finish it. You know, we work together, we work on projects, we collaborate, we help each other meet deadlines. I think expansion in terms of culture, expanding the cultural approach I think South America is an exciting opportunity in the next 10 years that I would like to see become a possibility.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Justin. I mean, we're a very unified company overall, where we all work together on multiple projects, and we've had the opportunity in the past 12 years, at least with the three of us that are here, to work on multiple projects, learn new things together. And I think COVID has been tough for everyone, but when we're rebuilding, I feel the goal in the next 10 years would be to work on 50 to 60 projects at the same time. That's something that, with all our systems and standards and procedures in place, it's a very doable thing. And we see that we work together 24 hours, like you mentioned, with a complete process that
Mm,
is an ongoing thing. And I don't think that hitch ever happened for us to that extent when COVID also came, because we were on WebEx and WhatsApp constantly for like years now, trying to bridge the gap of working together via different modes, which was very easy. And COVID made it maybe cut the travel time for us, but we yet were working at that same constant pace.
mm,
So 100%, the quality of our projects and clients has been getting better and better, and we would want to continue on that path and get more innovative briefs, have more exciting designs, fabulous and stable clients who can help us grow the company and make a difference for them, because making the difference is one of the biggest things that we do for in our firm. And yes, I think getting things built has been the motto from day one, and we're doing that and getting maybe something better done for the world. Like we started so many new groups in AWA, it's going to go to another level. And in 10 years, we're going to be the people who make a really big difference for what's going to happen in the lighting industry.
Thank you, Anuri. I think that's beautifully put. I would say that the AWA group is going to be a group of individuals led by great leaders who are focused on changing the zeitgeist, serving humanity, and inventing products and solutions, uh, for a more humane world. And yes, for sure, more research, more writing. We have two more books that are, well, one is already in the works, and the second one is planned to continue the dialogue on our perspective on light. I mean, the big thing is that, um, I mean, this award to me is a testimonial to our perspective on light, because we don't take the regular line. Like Sitaraman pointed out that that we go into meetings and we don't talk about light levels. We don't talk about lux levels. We talk about philosophy, and we talk about the bigger picture questions. Why? There's that famous line that Einstein used to say, that spend the 55 minutes asking the question why, and 5 minutes figuring out the solution. And we ask those questions, and that's kind of critical. I mean, that dialogue, that engagement is critical. And I think as we go into the next 10 years, we will see a lot more of this evolve, whether it's more studios, South America, Bangalore, Singapore, whatever it is. I mean, if you would remember that 10 years ago, I used to be like, 6 studios, this thing, this thing, this thing. And 10 years since then, I'm kind of going, sure, guys, let's do more studios, but let's focus on research and better responses, and and a group that is diverse in its approach towards what we do. We will always be people connected to light and lighting, but with that you get color and sound. I had an interaction this morning about how is sound connected to color, in the inverse relationship of wavelengths and frequency. It's all connected, you know and we hope that as we go further, we are coming up with solutions that can be benchmarked in the world. I mean, as Anuri pointed out this morning in our brief discussion, saying that you do know that most of our systems and standards and the way we write our specification, the way we do our schedule, the way we do our meeting minutes, the standards that we follow, right? That's why we can stay efficient. Is that's been, what's the word that we were saying that sounded politically correct? Because have been adapted by many other firms, right? And she said copied, I said, let's call it adapted. Yeah. And the point is what? The point is that, yeah, that's okay. They are going to be inspired by it, adapt it. That's okay. What we care about is that we keep doing more innovation and contributing more to humanity, and everything falls into place, and have a great time doing what we do, as must be clear to all of you here, that that we do have a good time with how we work on projects and solutions that come out. And yeah, of course, we don't get paid sometimes, and we have figured out ways of dealing with that. The example that I use is that the person comes to my restaurant, eats all the food, everything on his plate, licks his fingers, and then he says, I didn't like it, I'm not going to pay for it. It's like, you just finished everything. And so what we started doing is that we, in responding to that, we started kind of invoicing. When you have an appetizer, we give you the bill. When you have the main course, we give you a bill. When you have a dessert, we give you a bill, right? And people are like, well, why do you do that? It's just like, well, because then we keep everyone honest, because we are not going to work on it if you're not going to pay us, and those are lessons that have been important for us to kind of impart within the industry, is that let's have more self-esteem. Let's not just give away stuff for free. And don't forget, the mission is to spread joy and prosperity in architecture, to help people, to help their mental health, their mind-body harmonies. And it's not just about light levels. So on that note, we have exceeded our time, but I am so thankful to all of you for your support. To my team, I'm thanking them again, because they're an amazing group of people. And as we march forward, we will have more news for you. We'll see you probably in 6 weeks to 2 months to show you our current research that we are working on, topics that we are working on. And we call our research topic the Holy Cows, because they give us nourishment. And of course, it's tongue-in-cheek humor on where I come from. So it gives us those. We have 19 holy cows in our research, and we love to share more with you. And we would invite all of you to write to us or call us, so that we can see how we can explore synergies. And I hope with several of you in the audience now, and those of you who will see it on YouTube, that we can continue this dialogue after this. So thank you all. Thanks for coming. See you in a few weeks. Yeah.